Hi everyone, this is Dawn again. My second video of tonight actually. Uh, now this is for May 2nd, 2019. I did have another video that I recorded directly on YouTube Live, but apparently it did not record, at least not half of it. So this is take two, and this time I'm going to videotape using my computer's camera, and then I'm going to upload it. So hopefully I'll have a little bit better chance at being able to share everything I want to tonight. Tonight I'm going to discuss masks. Masks are an accessory that becomes very important, for some people vital, in order to survive with this condition known as multiple chemical sensitivity, or MCS for short. It also goes by a few other names. Environmental illness is one of the oldest terms used. It's a bit broader. Something that would actually fit with mine is called TILT. It's toxicant-induced loss of tolerance, since my condition with MCS was actually triggered in a very large part to being exposed to pepper foam at work. So those are just some other names that you can look up in case you are curious and want to do a few searches. You will find a vast variety of opinions. I would suggest that you be careful about where you research, because unfortunately there are many places that will just tell you that this is all in someone's head, that it doesn't really exist. I can tell you it does. One way that I was able to convince my husband that it wasn't all in my head, because, you know, again, this is a very misunderstood condition, was I reacted to food that he was cooking one day while I was sound asleep, because I work night shifts, so he was cooking, I was sleeping. And even through closed doors, I reacted to the chemicals that were released from the food in the microwave, processed meat. And I pointed out, if this was all in my head, this wouldn't have happened, because of the fact I had no clue what was going on in the other room while I was dead to the world. So, yeah, be careful about where you may get your information. I will try to get a few websites placed in some of the description bars in future videos to help out with some of the research of those of you who may be interested. I will go ahead and say, if there's anything in particular that you have a question about, go ahead and drop a line in the comments, and I will try to address that question. If I don't know the answer to it, I will do my best to get that answer for you. Alright, so today we're going to talk about masks, as I've said. Some people have to wear them in just a few locations, places that may have a higher than average level of chemicals. The laundry aisle at the grocery store, for example, or going into Home Depot or Lowe's, since there's a lot of paints and chemicals. Other people have to wear a mask everywhere that they go whenever they leave their home, because their home is their safe place. If they're lucky, some people, not even their home is safe, so it actually makes an even heavier burden for them, since they have no safe place. But we'll address that on a future video of housing. and the difficulties of it with MCS. But with a mask, you can see if I was to wear even a simple mask, one that you can get at Walmart in the paint department, just $1 or $2. If I was to decide to go shopping and I'm wearing this mask, not exactly a low profile outfit, right? Regardless of what you might wear, this is what people are going to see first. And with me, I also wear sunglasses all the time. So this is how you would see me if I was walking down the street in a area of town that's not trafficked very often. I'll get to what I will wear whenever I'm in a heavy trafficked area in a few minutes. But wearing this mask can help with reducing the amount of irritants that can get through. But again, you're not going to go anywhere without drawing attention. Now, fortunately, right now in North Carolina, it's pollen season, so someone may think I'm wearing this. Excuse me, I got some dog fur on my nose. Someone might think that someone may be wearing this just because of the fact that they're allergic to pollen. So it makes it where you can go a little low profile if you want. Well, as low profile as you can get wearing a mask in public. People can also think that you're scared of the flu, especially during the winter. But those stories don't work for the rest of the year, really. And sometimes you will just get people to stare, and some people will actually ask you, why are you wearing this mask? Another mask that is popular is a cloth mask. It's called a Vogue mask. It's cloth and you can wash it, and it comes with disposable filters that you can put in. This was actually the first type of mask that I tried using, and it worked fairly well when I first had to go out of work. But it didn't last long because my sensitivity level increased a lot, very fast. So this one is actually for my son, because he has noticed that chemicals affect him in a different way. Since he is not exposed to them here at the house all the time, when he is at school, he notices them a bit more, and they do affect his asthma. And so if there's a time when he knows that the school air freshener or his fellow students' perfumes and colognes are causing his asthma to act up, he will pull the sucker out. And has come in handy. Alright, now time for the mask that I wear the most often. It is my stronger mask, but it is also one that draws the most attention. It is a 3M mask, one that you can get in the paint department. I think I got this one at Home Depot. I was on vacation, and I specifically asked for the room to not be cleaned. I just wanted the bed to be stripped, and I was going to do the cleaning for the room myself once I got there, because I knew that I would not be able to handle the chemicals that most places use. I was going on vacation. It was my last vacation before I ended up having to leave work. And unfortunately, even though I called to confirm the hotel did not heed my request. So I got to the hotel in DC, and it was so strong that neither my son nor I could go into the room because it was just overwhelming. And it turns out that they were actually renovating, which they did not tell me whenever I asked. You learn to ask everything whenever you have this condition. But unfortunately, you also learn that not everybody tells you the truth, because they think that you're just making a mountain out of a molehill when you ask, are you going to have anything that may affect my stay? Because they want your money. So my son and I each got one of these masks while we were on vacation. He was able to stop wearing his within a day of us being there in the hotel. I had to wear mine the entire time I was in the hotel, even sleeping. Very comfortable to sleep in. And that was actually my first experience with wearing a mask in public, because up to that point I really hadn't been wearing a mask. So I got to see how it would be wearing a mask on the subways and everything like that, and I think I embarrassed my husband that week, but it was the only way I could survive, and he's learned to no longer be embarrassed, and that's great, because he has done remarkable with trying to be supportive. It gets on his nerves. I get on his nerves, but he does try to support me, which is great, because a lot of people with this condition, it drives a wedge between them and their spouses or the rest of their families and their friends. So I am fortunate with that. However, let me show you what I would look like if you were to see me grocery shopping. Who wants to go grocery shopping? Yeah, I have actually been asked to leave Walmart before, here in my hometown, because they said it was a violation of their policies. And they threatened to call the cops on me. Of course, I had been shopping for over half an hour, and they waited to approach me while I was in the line for the register. I'm not sure how that really worked in their mind. If I was there with a mask on to steal, I wouldn't have gone to the register to pay for stuff. So, I have been harassed. I had to inform the manager that threatened to call the cops on me that they were in violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act if they asked me to leave, because this was medically necessary for me. Without this mask, I would definitely get sick in their store and possibly stop breathing in their store. It was only after I encouraged them to call the cops that the manager finally stopped harassing me. I guess she figured that if I wanted the cops called, she was actually in the wrong. And she was. So that's just one thing that people who have to wear masks to go in public face. It's much like people with service dogs, which I have recently begun training a service dog myself, so I'm learning that while I've yet to come across discrimination with my dog, many people with service dogs do, and for the same reason, people are uninformed, uneducated about the laws. So now I am someone who's wearing a mask with a neon sign on the end of a leash. So no matter where I go, I'm going to be drawing attention. So now you just go with it. I've thought about putting some signs on there on the sides of my mask that would basically tell people, you know, that this is because I have MCS. Some people have joked with me saying that I should dress it up like mouse ears, or, you know, put some whiskers on it. Might do it for Halloween, I don't know. But for me, actually, every day is Halloween. Wearing a mask, and it's not fun. Every single one of these that I showed you are hot. You are breathing in recycled air, your own breath. So you make sure that you don't eat anything that's going to cause you to have bad breath, because you're the one that's going to pay for it. If you are out for very long, you can also get very dehydrated, because none of these masks allow you to eat or drink. So if you get thirsty and you're in an area where you know that the air is not safe for you, you suffer one way or the other, whether it's from dehydration or removing the mask long enough to eat or drink. But you can make it where, if you are fortunate enough to be able to find an employer that will allow you to wear a mask, or hire you after you're already having to wear a mask, break times will become almost impossible. You would have to limit the number of hours that you work straight, because you would be very hungry, very cranky by the end of the day, very thirsty. And, you know, those are just some minor inconveniences, but it's just minor inconveniences that add to the rest that wearing a mask entails. Whether it be your co-workers, giving their opinions to you on what you think that you should do, or how you don't look professional. Going out in public, you may embarrass your friends and family. You know, walk down the street ahead of me. I don't want anybody to associate you with me. Wearing masks is not something that is done just because we want attention. Wearing a mask is something that's done because the very air around us is toxic. It's actually toxic to people who don't even react to it in the same way. You see, people who have MCS are nicknamed canaries. We're the canaries in the coal mine. That illustration comes from back when coal miners once would take canaries in cages down into the mine shafts for when they would work, because canaries would react to the poisonous gases or low oxygen levels before humans. So if the canary stopped singing and died, the miners knew that it was time to get on out of that mine shaft in a hurry. So, because it didn't mean that they weren't being exposed to the same poisons, it's just that the canary died first. So, people with MCS are nicknamed canaries. We react to toxins on a lower level, but they're still toxic for everyone. It may take you longer to react, or you may react in a smaller way so that you don't really link your reaction to your exposure. So, with the masks, sometimes you have to be a bit creative, because my exposures are not only inhalants that I react to, it's also skin contact. I have reacted to papers fresh from printing whenever someone would fax something. It looked like I had burned my arm because I had laid the paper on my arm as I was trying to grab it and hold it. You know, I was just kind of letting it rest on my arm. And I ended up with a chemical burn from the ink and the paper. So it can be things that are not just in the air, but anything that can touch your skin. And in this case, my mask has a silicone mask. It's very pliable, and it actually feels fairly comfortable for what it is. However, when I wear this mask for very long at all, I will start to develop a chemical burn where it touches my skin. So I had to get a little creative with trying to solve that, because for a while I kind of put this mask away saying, well, maybe I can make do with one of the other masks. And it just got to the point where I needed my heavy mask. I've joked about having to upgrade eventually to a full mask, but this half mask is my heaviest one that I have right now. So what I ended up doing, I went into my craft set that I used to do a lot of crafts back whenever I was healthier. So I had some Velcro strips that were a few years old. And that is very important because everything that you buy has chemicals on it. So whenever you have MCS, buying anything to use now is troublesome. Trying to buy something that you're not going to react to is almost impossible. There are thousands of chemicals that are put on products before you even reach the store shelves. Between what's in the factory, with clothing, the fashion industry is allowed to spray chemical compounds onto the clothing, and they don't just wash off. Sorry, my speech kind of slurred there for a few minutes. As I said in my last video, this condition can make me lose my words at times, which is very frustrating because I used to be known for my quick wit and the ability to win an argument in a heartbeat. I've always been very proud of that. I am a redhead after all. But as I was saying, the chemicals don't just wash off. Most of the time, things that are brought home cannot be used by the sufferer for months. Depending on how severe the sufferer's condition is, they may not be able to bring it into the house for months. They may have to keep it out in a garage or in a storage building that's not attached to the house while it off-gasses, releasing the chemicals that are in the product, whether it be from the manufacturing of it itself, the transportation, or picking up various chemicals from being in the store before you picked it up. So fortunately, I had some old Velcro strips that had off-gassed, so I was able to line my mask with the cotton part of the Velcro so that it would touch my skin instead of silicone. It had the sticky backing instead of having to glue it in. So, because I would not be able to handle having the glue off gas inside that mask. And as I showed you, it's very noticeable. So whenever I go grocery shopping, I'm not going to be able to just run in and run out real quick without at least one person staring, possibly asking why I'm wearing it, or walking past somebody with their child, and kids are curious, and their moms and their dads will try to say, well, they don't want germies because it's simpler, or to explain. And to be honest, most people think that if you're wearing a mask, you have an immune issue like cancer or some other autoimmune disorder, which technically MCS could be filed under an autoimmune, I would suppose. Let me just speak to that for just a second. If you see someone, instead of staring or making up an excuse, I would much rather you ask. Particularly if you have a child. That way you can teach that child that it's better to ask than stare. Or because then you're not just an invisible person wearing a mask, because you are invisible while being highly visible, because no one sees you, they see your mask. So don't be afraid to ask. Just like if I have my service dog with me whenever I'm out, I would much rather someone ask and become educated than to just assume certain things that may not be true. A disability is a disability, and for any disability, more information is better than none. Especially if you can give the right kind of information. So, there's just one last thing I'm going to talk about before I end this video. With May being the month for awareness for MCS, there is something called the MCS Mask Challenge. And what better day to issue this challenge than the day where I discuss masks. Okay, so what is the MCS Mask Challenge? This is a challenge where I ask you, or your friends or your family, or anybody else that would like to help spread awareness and become more informed of what this condition's complications can be, to spend one day, one work day, or one day whenever you're off of work, if you can't get permission to wear a mask while you're at work. Some places you can, some places you can't. But spend one day wearing a mask. Now, it can be any kind of mask. It could be a little disposable mask that you can get at Walmart. It could be one of those little surgical masks that you see at the doctor's office that they ask you to put on, that I really don't think does anything whenever they tell you to put it on for the safety. If you have the sniffles or a fever or something whenever you come in to see them at the doctors or the hospitals, because a good half of the people who wear those masks, they don't wear them right. But for the sake of the challenge, you know, it would give you a feel of what it's like to wear a mask everywhere you go. So yes, don't say you're going to take the challenge and then just stay home. Sort of defeats the purpose. Go out, either go to work, go to the gym, go for a walk down the street, go grocery shopping, go Walmart or the mall, or go to the movies. any place that you think this is a place where I would still want to come if I had to wear a mask. And see how different the experience is. We've already discussed, you wear a mask, eating and drinking is pretty much off the table for many people with MCS. Now, there are some people who can remove their masks for short periods of time, depending on their environment. Not every environment's safe. Not every environment will be as toxic as a different environment. But, so it depends on the sensitivity of the individual. But before I left work, I learned that I was moved to a different department from the one that I had been in whenever I first developed MCS. And I learned very fast that I was not going to be able to eat or drink at work if I had remained in that job, because there was no safe place for me to take my mask off to eat or drink. The break room was not safe for me. And in order to leave my department, it would have taken half of my break to get out and half of my break to go back in. So, no break. So that is something that you can consider whenever you are doing the mask challenge. How would this affect my ability to work? Notice the stares that you get whenever you're wearing the mask. Notice how hot the dang thing is. I don't care what mask you wear, it will be hot. You will sweat. You will wish that you can take it off. But for those with this condition, that may not be an option. So, other masks that other people wear can be full masks. You know, the kind that has the glass that covers the eyes and the face. And that's probably the one I'm going to go for next. Some people with this condition have to wear oxygen masks. That's not convenient. So, because oxygen tanks are heavy, not to mention they're not exactly easy to get from the medical community. Getting a doctor to write a prescription is not an easy task. But I encourage everyone to consider taking the mask challenge. Even if you can only do it for an hour. Try it. Challenge your fellow co-workers. Challenge the people at your church. Choose one day that you and your friends or your co-workers or fellow congregants will choose one day where all of you decide to take the mask challenge together. Go fragrance free for just one day. If you can't do the mask challenge, that would be another way to bring awareness. Just asking people for one day to give up their products. But I would love to hear if any of you take the mask challenge. I would love to hear some of your observations from taking the challenge. So I hope that it would be an educational experience for you. So that's going to be the end of this video. There will be others throughout this month. And as I've said before, you have a topic that you'd like to discuss, just let me know. And I will be more than willing to do a video on it. And again, if I don't know the particulars of a certain topic of one segment of the MCS equation, so to speak, I will look it up and do my best to bring that information to you. So my name is Dawn. I'm a canary, but I'm also one face of MCS. I am one face of many.